In this video, now let us go to the accounting process. So accounting process, when I say, it is in this manner. Number one, identification of transactions. Then it takes into 4 different stages. First stage, recording the transactions in the books of original entry known as journal. Then posting to ledger. I can call this a primary book, and this can be called as secondary book also for our understanding. So to record the transactions, we need to do the entries to be recorded in the primary book, then posted into the secondary book. Then preparation of trial balance, and finally preparation of final accounts, which I had shown it as the profit and loss account and balance sheet in my earlier videos. So accounting process goes into, first we have to identify the transaction and record in the journal, then post in the ledger, and based on this ledger you are going to prepare the trial balance. So once you post it into ledger, the importance or the necessity of journal goes away. Ledger is very important. So from the ledger we prepare the trial balance. So extraction of trial balance should happen from the ledger, and based on the trial balance we prepare the final accounts. Before going into the recording of the transaction in the books of original entry, which is known as journal, let us understand the accounting rules. Very, very important. Now, accounting rule is something which is needed for you to record the transactions in the journal. Accounting rule. This is based on the accounts which we have already classified. You know that we have classified accounts into personal, real, and nominal. Now, as far as personal rule is concerned, debit the receiver. You know that. We know the person who is the receiver becomes the debtor, and credit the giver. The person who gives you the money, he becomes your creditor. And for real, debit what comes in, debit, and what goes out, credit. And at the same time, debit all expenses and losses, and credit all incomes and gains. Very easy, because expenses and losses are bad, debit, and credit incomes and gains because they are good. These two things we have understood in the earlier videos very clearly. Now whenever I come to the real, it speaks about your assets, nothing but your fixed assets and current assets. So whenever it comes into you, it is coming to you, automatically you own it. So automatically it becomes debit. It becomes an asset and you own it, that is why it is debit. And at the same time, when it goes out, we call it as credit. So, accounting rule for personal, for real and nominal, these three debits and credits rule understanding is very, very important for moving into the recording into journal. Accounting is none other than post-mortem of the past event. You can very much go back to the definitions of my assets, liabilities, expenses, incomes. You can understand as a result of past event I would have written. Please understand that logic. So now you understood. Accounting is none other than recording of the transaction which has happened in the past. Now let us go into the first stage of your accounting process. Nothing but recording the transactions in the books of original entry, known as, we all know that it is nothing but journal. For that, step number 1. Step 1, step 2 and step 3. Now let us understand the first step. Now in each and every transactions, as per the dual aspect concept, you will find noun, two nouns. So ultimately first step is identify the nouns in each transaction. This is very important. When I say nouns, which is nothing but the accounts. The learners or beginners, anybody can understand. We are going to take the transaction. Transaction means what? A sentence. In a sentence, what you can find? You will find nouns, verb, prepositions, articles. But I don't consider any other thing except the nouns. So first of all, we will take the nouns, and those nouns are to be identified initially, which is nothing but the first step. So as per the dual aspect concept, in most of the transactions, you can find two nouns generally will appear. Nouns should be picked first. Step number 2, bifurcate the nouns by using the accounting rule. So that is why I wrote the accounting rule first. So the bifurcation is to be needed. First, take the transaction. In that, circle around the nouns. Then those nouns are to be bifurcated. What is the meaning of this bifurcation? Bifurcation is nothing but debits and credits. So each and every noun in the transactions will have two aspects. One aspect is the debit aspect, another aspect will be the credit aspect. So this bifurcation is very, very important. For that, we need to apply the accounting rule. So you must know the accounting rule and you should know how to bifurcate them by using the accounting rule. This is very, very important. So the first step is to identify the nouns in the transactions and bifurcate the nouns according to the rule, accounting rule, and then record in the journal. This is what the third step, which is ultimately we are going to see in accounting finally. So these two things is to be done mentally, but initially this bifurcation I will try to teach you how to do that without going into the mental aspect, but like a table. Now initially what you do, table you have to do one by one. You have to write and read, understand. But once you understand the table, you memorize the table, automatically what will do that? You don't use and you start doing it mentally. So this bifurcation has to be done through using the mental process, but that will happen by practice. But initially I will teach you how to do the bifurcation part and then record in the journal. This is what the third step which you have to do in the first accounting process, recording the transaction in the books of the original entry. Now let us start with the transactions. Now we are coming to the practical understanding. So we take the transaction. So let me start with Mr. X commenced or started, whatever you can use the word, commenced business with cash rupees 50,000. This is the transaction. Please understand, it is a sentence. It's a meaningful sentence. So this is known as the transaction. So each and every transaction should be in this manner, a meaningful sentence. Now here we are going to pick the nouns. Mr. X directly name, and then comes business is also another noun. Cash is also another noun. Now I had said earlier, in each and every transaction there must be two aspects, namely a debit and a credit. But the very first transaction what I have started is having three nouns. Confusion. Now again, for our understanding, we must take only two nouns. We should not take three nouns. Again, violation of the basic dual aspect concept. So something has to be stopped. So ultimately what I should do? I have to cancel any one of the nouns. Now this is where you should understand the concept comes into picture. Now what concept we understand? The concept here is the entity concept. Now what entity concept it says? The business and the owner are two different entities. So once you understand this concept clearly, the next important question goes that for whom you are interacting. Whether you are interacting for Mr. X or you are going to interact for the business. And most of us, we are going to interact only for the business. So when I am interacting for the business, the noun business by itself will get cancelled. Because I am interacting only for that. Then why should I pick that as a noun here? So ultimately, the word business, which is nothing but the noun, is cancelled because for that only we are doing all these understandings. So, business is the noun for whom we are taking the transaction and analyzing it. I cancel that noun business because for that only I am doing all these process, and the leftover nouns are X, Mr. X and cash. Now let us understand how we bifurcate and do this. Mr. X is one noun, Mr. X, and another noun is cash. Please understand. So when I say Mr. X, X name, he belongs to personal account. First I will write the respective account name, and to which account they belong I write it next. Then in this particular transaction, what is the role of Mr. X? So when I say personal, his role may be giving or receiving. He may be a giver or receiver. Now here, as per the entity concept, business is different and the owner is different. Here the owner is the giver of money to the business. Ultimately, he is the giver. And now we are going to apply the accounting rule. So whenever a person is the giver, we call him as credit. So Mr. X, personal, belongs to personal account. He is the giver. So as per the giver logic, the rule says you have to say credit to him. And at the same time, cash. Cash is impersonal because it does not have life. But cash can either be called as a real or nominal. So cash is real. Very much you can understand the basic first important one what I said under the real is has long useful life. Please go back to my previous video how I classified a real and nominal, giving some basic important questions one by one. The first question what I have written there is anything which has got a long useful life is called as an asset. So cash, it belongs to real, it comes into real aspect, and as far as this particular transaction is concerned, what cash is doing, cash for the real, the rule says whether it comes in or goes out. Now look at here, don't get confused. We are talking only from the business angle, and for the business, X is giving money, cash is coming in. So cash comes in, and whenever it is coming in, what is the accounting rule says? Debit. So now we have taken the transaction, we have picked the nouns, and we had bifurcated the nouns according to the personal and real by applying the accounting rule as we bifurcate them as debit and credit. And here the rule application is very important. First we should know the accounting rules for all the three accounts, and then understand the transaction and what these the accounts are doing in these transactions. We have to understand it carefully, then use the rules and then call them as debit and credit. So our aim is to call the dual aspects into debit and credit. Please understand carefully.